transport in plants. Today we will be doing as means of transport. I mean, how does the transportation in a plant take place, or what is the mode of transport, or what is the means of transport? The most common mode of transport, or the most common means of transport which we have all heard about is diffusion. I am sure you have heard of this word diffusion. See beta, diffusion, that means we are talking about transport of substances. Transport of substance can be from one part of the cell to the other cell. I mean within the cell. It is within the cell only. Some substance is being transported from one part of the cell to the other part of the cell. Or it could be from one cell to the other cell. That means it's a very short distance transfer, of course. And whenever we have such a short distance transfer, that means when it is being transported from one part of the cell to the other part of the cell, or from one cell to the neighboring cell, we say that it's a very short distance transfer, and in such short distance transfers, no energy is spent. Molecules, they just move in a random motion, and finally what happens is the net result is, in the beginning they move in a random motion. If you see the movement of particles, you will feel that the movement is not constant, it is not in a fixed direction, it's very random. But gradually the net result comes out to this, that they always move from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. This is what happens in a normal diffusion case. Normal diffusion, it is just a transfer which is not for long distances. It is from one part of the cell to the other part of the cell, or it could be one cell to the neighboring cell, that is a short distance transfer. Remember that no energy is spent in this. Initially molecules do move in a random motion. They move here and there, half a z motion, but finally the net result comes out to always be 1. That is, they are moving from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. Also remember that diffusion is a slow process, and it is very obvious in gases and liquids. You can find this process very common in gases and liquids. In class 10 you have done many examples of diffusion. Mama cooking something very delicious in the kitchen, or incense sticks being burnt in the house, temple. Or you must have come across such common examples of diffusion in class 10. So it's a slow process. It is very commonly seen in gases and liquids. It is very important for plants. When we say diffusion is a very slow process, then it should not be very significant for a plant. But this is not a fact. Though diffusion is a very slow process, but it is very important for a plant. Reason is because this is the only means of gaseous transport within the plant. If gases have to be transported within the plant, from one part of the plant to the other part of the plant, within the plant, if the gaseous transport has to take place, the only mode available, the only means available is the diffusion. Now, we all know about diffusion. How fast is the diffusion? What is the speed? That is the diffusion rate. We call it as a diffusion rate. There are certain things which affect the rate of diffusion. The number one is the gradient of concentration. When I say gradient of concentration, I mean the difference in the concentrations. If I say high concentration to low concentration, then how much is the difference? If it is 20 and 80, or it is 20 and 40. So, the difference of 20 to 80 is a higher concentration gradient. So, what it depends upon? It depends upon gradient of concentration. It depends upon the permeability of the membrane, and it also depends upon the supporting the temperature and of course the pressure. Listen again now. What are the factors on which the rate of diffusion depends? It depends upon the gradient of concentration. How much is the difference in the concentration? That is gradient of concentration. Second, it depends upon the permeability of the membrane, and then it depends upon the temperature, and finally it depends upon the pressure. So there are 4 factors on which the rate of diffusion depends very fast: the gradient of concentration, the permeability of membrane, the temperature and the pressure. Now this kind of a diffusion, we said, it is taking place all on its own. It is a short distance transfer, no energy is being involved, it is very common in gases and liquids, it's a slow process. All this we have done about diffusion, and it is the net result was high concentration to low concentration. Now we are going to study a little modified form of diffusion which is known as facilitated diffusion. Okay, this is another different type of a diffusion. We call it as a facilitated diffusion. See beta, for diffusion to occur, I told you gradient must be present. There should be a difference in concentration. That is what we call as a gradient. Only if gradient is present, then diffusion will take place. If there is a difference in the concentration, only then we say diffusion will occur. Or if we say it in scientific language, we will say for diffusion to occur, gradient must be present. The rate of diffusion, of course, also depends upon the size of the substance. The smaller the size of the particles, the diffusion rate is faster. What substances are to be diffused? What substances are to be transferred? On that also the rate of diffusion depends. If the particles are smaller in size, the rate of diffusion is obviously faster. Diffusion of a substance also depends upon the solubility in lipids. This is a very important thing. See beta, the main constituent of the membrane is lipids. When we say the membrane, it is mainly made up of what? It is made up of lipids. So one very important factor which contributes to the rate of diffusion is whatever substance has to be shifted, has to be transported, how much is it soluble in lipids? Because lipid is the major constituent of the membranes. Those substances which are soluble in lipids, they diffuse very quickly. But the substances which have a hydrophilic moiety, which are not soluble in lipids, it is very difficult for them to pass through the membrane, and then they have to move through a different kind of a diffusion which is known as facilitated diffusion. What have we done in facilitated diffusion? See beta, if the particles are smaller, they will easily diffuse. If the particles are easily soluble in liquids, they will again diffuse very easily because lipid is the main constituent of membrane. But if the particles are big or the particles are not soluble in lipids, then it becomes very difficult for the substances to pass through or diffuse through the membrane. In such a condition, when the particles are bigger in size or they are not soluble in lipids, then we need to have a special kind of a diffusion which is known as facilitated diffusion. They have to be helped. Facilitating, helping, supporting, aiding. So that diffusion is what we call as facilitated diffusion. Now, what happens is we have certain proteins on the membrane. We have membrane proteins. Some of them act as sites. Not all of them, of course. But some of these proteins, they act as sites at which such molecules can pass through the membrane. Of course, through lipids they are not able to pass. I told you the membrane is made up of lipids, it is also made up of certain proteins. Now we were discussing about those substances which cannot pass through the membrane because they are not soluble in lipids. So there is another option for them. We have some proteins in the membrane surface, and these proteins, they become the site, and through these sites the molecules can pass through the membrane. Now, what do these do? They do not set up a concentration gradient. Don't they think that these proteins are helping them by creating what? By creating a concentration gradient. Remember that concentration gradient must already be present. Only then also the molecules will be diffused by facilitated by proteins. What I am trying to say is, this facilitation by proteins, this help which will be given by the proteins of the membranes will only be given if there is a concentration gradient. If there is a difference in the concentration of that particular substance inside the cell and outside the cell. If there is a difference in concentration, okay, and if there is a difference in the concentration, means there is a concentration gradient. If we already have a concentration gradient, only then these proteins will become the sites and allow these substances to pass through them. Such kind of a diffusion is called facilitated diffusion, helping diffusion, supporting, aiding diffusion. And who is acting like a facilitator? Who is acting like a helper or aiding them? It is basically the membrane proteins. So facilitated diffusion, in such a diffusion we have special proteins. They help to move the substances across the movement. And remember, there is no expenditure of ATP, there is no energy being spent in this process. It is only that because these substances are not soluble in lipids, they cannot pass through the membrane. Other substances which are soluble in lipids, they dissolve in lipids and they enter the cell. However, these are not soluble in lipids. So what do they do? It is these proteins which act as sites and they allow the molecules to enter. So who is facilitating them? It is the membrane proteins. However, there is no expenditure of energy, there is no ATP involvement in this. Facilitated diffusion cannot cause the transport of molecules from low concentration to high concentration. Remember this also. I just told you, facilitated diffusion will only take place if there is a concentration gradient, if there is a difference in concentration. But this concentration gradient also should be high to low. Facilitated diffusion never takes place from low to high, because had it been low to high, then it would obviously require energy. The rate of the transport reaches the maximum. Now of course, let us imagine we had certain substances which were not soluble in lipids. Now with the help of proteins, they are entering inside the cell. Who is helping them? The proteins are helping them. Now they have started moving. How fast will they move? What will be the rate of diffusion? This will depend upon How many proteins are acting as protein transporters? Fine. What is it? Supposing there are about 100 in a particular cell, if I talk about, I'm just giving you an example of the membrane. If there are 100 proteins, out of 100 proteins, 50 of them are acting like transporters. That means 50 of them are allowing to carry the molecules from outside the cell to inside the cell. So the rate of transport would be a certain way. In place of 50, if we have 75 proteins who are acting as transporters, obviously the rate of diffusion will increase. I hope you understood. The rate of transport reaches the maximum when all the protein transporters are being used. I gave you an example where the membrane has 100 proteins, and if all the 100 start acting like transporters, then obviously the rate of diffusion will reach its maximum, because after this no transport can take place as all the proteins are already involved. So if all the proteins act like transporters, the rate of diffusion reaches its maximum, and this is what we call as saturation level. What is this level called as? Saturation level. All the proteins on the surface of the membrane are acting like transporter proteins. They are carrying the molecules from outside the cell, taking them inside the cell. So the rate of diffusion becomes maximum, and we call it as saturation. But remember that this distribution is very specific. It is the cell which will select the substances. All the facilitation will be done, but the proteins will only help once the cell decides that yes, this substance I want inside. So such kind of a transport is also known as a specific transport, because the cell will be very specific in deciding what it is going to take inside, what it will not take. What do these proteins do now? These proteins, they form channels in the membrane for molecules to pass through. What do these proteins become? They become like channels, okay? And it is through these channels that the molecules will pass through. Some are large to allow variety of molecules to pass through them. Some of these transport proteins are very large, and they will allow a large amount of substances to pass through them. Even the small size proteins, they are carried by these large size transport proteins, okay? Then we have a word on the board, porins, P-O-R-I-N, porins. Porins are the proteins that form huge pores in the outer membrane. What do porins do? They are not forming channels better. These porins are actually proteins, but they are not moving the substances through channels. They are not making channels. What are the porins doing then? They are also proteins. They make pores. They make huge pores on the outer membrane. Not all places you will find porins. You will find porins on the outer membrane of the plastids. You will find them on bacteria. You will also find them on mitochondria, and they allow the molecules to pass through them. So porins are also basically transport proteins. The only difference is they are not acting like channels. They make huge pores, big holes on the outer membrane of these bacteria or plastids or mitochondria, and these big size molecules, they easily pass through those huge pores and enter the cell. The extracellular molecules means those molecules which are outside the cell. What do? They bind to the transport protein, they attach themselves. They will not attach themselves to the lipid because they are not soluble. They will go and attach themselves to the transport protein, and then this protein will rotate. It will change its direction entirely. This protein will rotate, and then it will release the molecule inside the cell. If you can see on the board over here, this is the membrane. These are the membranes. This is the molecule which has to be transported. It is outside the cell. This is your transport protein. These molecules are outside the cell. Now these dark shaded molecules, they will go and attach themselves to the transport proteins. What have they done? They have attached themselves to transport proteins. Now if you see carefully in the second figure, the molecule is attached to the transport protein on the left side. Can you see very clearly it is on the left side? Now what will this transport protein do? It will rotate itself. It will rotate itself. Now see in the third picture. Because it has changed its position. The left has become right and the right has become left after rotation. So the molecule which was on the left is now reached which side? Right side. And now this molecule will be detached from the transport protein. It has reached inside the cell. If you can see on the right, that is your transported molecule. Extreme left was those molecules which had to be transported. In the center you can see that bigger one, that is transport protein on the membrane. So this molecule which has to enter attaches itself to the transport protein. You can see it like a tadpole structure, it is attached. Now this will rotate itself. The transport protein will rotate itself. The left becomes right, the right becomes left. So this molecule goes towards the right side and then it is detached from the transport protein. So that means from outside the cell, it has reached inside the cell. This is all about diffusion and facilitated diffusion, and also about porins.